Let me see. There we go. All right. The little doohickey thing was coming out of. It should be good now. There was something wrong with the microphone, so hopefully you can hear me now. Let me know if there are any issues with this. Kind of waiting for people to join. Hey, Amanda, can you hear me okay? Okay, it was not coming in at first, so I had to readjust it. So hopefully that's good. Excuse my voice, and I do have to have a microphone this week because my voice is going from screaming on. Okay, good. My voice is going from screaming on roller coasters. Chanello and I were the adventurous ones. Flo and Robin were not. And Robin was so funny because we went on this like penguin one. I don't know, Chanello and I did. And they weren't allowing us to take backpacks on. So we we were like, well, we'll just go and then you two can go because it was like this little kid ride, right? This little kid roller coaster. So we're like, we'll just go and you can watch. And there goes the thing right when I'm starting. Um, I don't know who that is. Let me just a second, guys. I usually try taking this off. I don't know who that's going to be. They start leaving a weird voicemail. I'll just mute it for a minute. But of course, it goes off right when I start my program. Um, so we were like, we'll stand back with the bags, or you guys stand back with the bags, and then we'll go. So we went and we were like, oh, that was fun. It was just a cute little, it was a roller coaster, but it was for kids, right? There's like a million kids on it. So we came back and Robin's like, was it bad? And we were like, oh no. Chanel was like, I mean, it's a little, it has a couple little dips and stuff. And Robin's like, well, how was the motion? And we were like, well, I was like, oh, it's fine. I think it's fine. So she went on it and she came off and she's like, Cassandra, why did you not tell me it was terrifying? So she was terrified on the whole thing and she had her eyes shut the entire ride. And I was like, oh my goodness. So that was one of the first rides we went on. But then the rides that Chanello and I went on afterwards made that look like literally a walk in the park because we went on the Maku. I think that's what it's called. Maku, Maku. I don't know. And then that one was terrifying. And I said never again because you only had this little lap bar that barely held you in. And you could literally feel yourself flying up on all I guess it turns out some kid was telling us it's the fastest ride in Orlando. So yeah, I didn't like that one. And then we were walking out of the park. We were at SeaWorld and Chanello wanted to go on the Manta one, like the flying Manta. Well, this one's different because you get in it, you sit down, and then they flip you like this. So you're literally hanging. And it was the most different feeling for a roller coaster I've ever been on. But I will say it was not as terrifying because even when they flip you, your legs are like also restrained. Your legs go up on this thing and they get restrained as well. I will say that was not as terrifying as the Maku or whatever it was called. Um, I felt more safe. Like I didn't feel like I was going to die like I did every second of the time I was on the other ride. So, anyways, all that to say, that is why my voice is this way. I'm very sorry if you don't like a lot of sounds like that because you're going to be hearing weird. I have to keep clearing my throat. And yeah, so sorry about that. But, anyways, I wanted to get into the topic today. I'm actually going to go share this really quickly in the Gently Led Sisters group because I have not been staying up with updates, guys. Life is super crazy. Um, Life is super crazy and it's going to continue to be crazy. For me, I have a lot going on in my life right now, contrary to popular opinion online. I have a lot going on. So I'm here, there, and everywhere. And okay, that is shared. All right, there we go. Okay, so we have some people watching now. Good. But I am here, there, and everywhere. And so I'm just hitting the things that I'm able to hit. Maybe this summer, when I'm no longer teaching lessons for 2 months, I can focus a little bit more on gently led sisters. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm also expecting my first grandchild this summer, early fall. So it's just going to keep getting busier. But I am often asked about this subject when it comes to adult kids. And what I'm talking about today is finding the balance between protecting your kids, but also raising independent kids who can function well. And many who know me in real life know that I'm not a helicopter parent. I'm not one who stands over my kids' shoulders and tell them which step to do next when doing a project. I'm not one that's constantly worrying about them, constantly stressed out, constantly thinking they're going to get hurt, constantly think something's going to happen to them. I've definitely had my times where I'm there and I've done that, as moms, we all have fears, right? But one of my goals in life is to raise independent children. And I am rather someone, maybe it's because I had a lot of kids close together, but I'm someone who tries to foster an independent spirit in my kids, even my girls. I want them to be capable, but to also want the protection of a man in their lives as they get older. Their dad has done a great job of doing this in our daughter's life and in mine as well. And I want them to marry men who are like that, men who like capable, dependable women, but also protect them and are there for them in a pinch when they do need a knight in shining armor. How are some ways to find balance between protecting our kids, not throwing them to the wolves, yet fostering independent, capable kids? So many who know me, I don't really ascribe to a certain group or a certain culture within IFB. Okay, so we are truly independent. That being said, I am not black and white on a lot of these soapbox worthy things. Take, for instance, jobs, kids having jobs, girls having jobs. I'm not hardcore against that. Um, I have found for my life that as it comes to raising my kids and my kids get older, they're not all the same. They're all different. They all have different strengths. They all have different weaknesses. They all have different interests. And just saying something is a sin doesn't make it a sin. You can shout from the rooftops that girls having a job is a sin. It doesn't mean that it is a sin. And I don't believe that it's a sin. I believe that things can become sin if we allow them, such as when it starts making you break commandments in the Bible, such as honoring your father and mother, such as forsaking church, or forsaking the assembling. There's different things that can turn into sins, but them in and of themselves are not sins. Bible college. I'm not going to say that Bible college is or is, I don't think it's a sin. Um, And there's a lot of things that certain groups like to beat their chests about and make into big sins, and they're not. They're making commandments of men at this point. So do those things have the potential to turn into it? Well, anything has the potential to turn into a sin, even just making money. Making money in and of itself is good, especially for men. They have to provide for their family. See, who doesn't provide for his family is worse than an infidel. It's a necessity to make money. However, making money can turn into a sin if you start loving money. Money is the root of all evil. You can start craving more and more and more money. Suddenly you are never home. You're not raising your kids. You're not tithing. You're missing church so that you can make more money, those things. So when it comes to raising my kids, there are some loose things we follow. There are some guidelines we follow. However, every kid is different. And if something is not a sin, then it's okay to explore those options, whether that's getting a job, earning an associate's degree, going to college, doing online school, whatever it is. And every family is going to be different. Every family is going to have their own guidelines and their own set of rules. This is just what has worked well for our family. I've never been one to coddle my kids when it comes to basically anything. Um, I'm a hard knock girl, so I like to toughen up my kids. I don't like to coddle them. I don't like to baby them. And I'm definitely not a helicopter parent with them. So with my own kids, I started young when it came to this. Young kids are capable of a lot. So you can definitely push them. And I'm going to say, don't push them to the point of frustration. It's just like this with piano lessons too. I was just having a talk with one of my students today. I was like, when you feel yourself becoming frustrated, you need to take a step back. Okay. So practicing, it should be like a little bit of a challenge, but not so much that you have no idea what you're doing and you're just becoming frustrated and you want to cry. I was like, if you get to that point, go do something else for a while and then come back. And sometimes our minds just need a break. And it's the same thing with kids. You shouldn't be pushing your child to the point of tears. Rather, you as the mom should have the capability of discerning what your child is capable of and what they're not. So, young kids can do more than you think. They are capable of doing quite a bit, and I expect all of the kids in our house to help out. I tell them often, we are all part of the McMurtry family. We are all part of the McMurtry home, and we're all going to do our part. You don't get to just freeload because you're a kid. There are some things that are expected of you. So even when it comes to Hannah and Kelly, I have really we deep cleaned the room a couple weeks ago. It took me like all day to clean the room. And I was like, I'm never doing this again. This was ridiculous that it got to this point. But the holidays had happened, life had happened, and the room just got away from me. And the next thing I know, I'm wading through piles of clothes and papers, and it was horrible. So I've been after them. I got them little bins. I showed them exactly where everything went. And I told them, I said, you're responsible for putting your shoes in your shoe bin. You're responsible for, or at least asking Lana to help hang up your dresses. And then this is your drawer for shirts. This is your drawer for dress. This is not really dresses. We hang up most of the dresses now. This is your drawer for pajamas. This is your drawer for culottes and skirts. So, um, they're 4 and 6, and they're definitely capable of making their own bed every morning. Kelly's to the point where she can pretty much bathe herself. As good as me, probably not. But when you have a lot of kids, as long as the job gets done, it doesn't have to get done perfectly. And that's my philosophy in life. As long as the job is getting done, it doesn't have to get done perfectly or even the way I would do it. So I would rather have an independent child than one who it's like I'm so nitpicky with everything has to be done exactly the way I like it. I would rather have an independent child over that. So kids can definitely help you out around the house. They can tag along with dad for chores, yard work, etc. My husband was just talking about this to some men in our church yesterday. And he was talking about how he used to have this job where he would have to go around in the summer to foreclosed homes and he would have to mow their lawns so it wouldn't become overgrown and nasty or whatever. And he would take the boys with, and sometimes they would have like 20 houses to do, and it would be really quick jobs. But they would help a lot. They would help unload the weed eater. They would help unload all the supplies. They would sometimes, he taught them to use a weed eater very, very young. They would be weed eating. They would, when they got heavy enough, and when they first started, they weren't heavy enough to sit on the rider mower, he would have them cut the grass. But he would tell them, we might get all 20 houses done today, or we might not. So I can either pay you $15 for the day, or I can pay you $1 for each house that we do. And they would almost always choose the $1. So sometimes they would make $20, but they were literally like 9 and 10 when he would do this with them. And of course, this was in the summer. There was no school or anything. And so what better than to send my 9 and 10-year-old boy along with their dad for the whole day to be with him, working alongside of him, and it just built and instilled very good work ethic from the time that they were young. And since my boys were 12 when they got a detasseling job in the summer, they have never been without a job of some sort, especially during the summer months. When they both turned 16, they both got a job outside of school. So during the summer, they would always have a detasseling job. They didn't get a regular job during the school year until they were able to drive or until they had their license. So, but since they've been 16, they've been working. So it just really instilled a good work ethic, tagging along with dad. And I can't stress that enough. When you have boys, especially, they need to be around dad. They need to see dad work. They need to tag along with dad to job sites, if at all possible. my husband taught my boys super young to do yard work. And by the time they were 12 or 13, they did our entire yard. They would mow the entire yard. And when we moved into this house that we're in now, almost 13 years ago, it's 3 acres and he had them doing all of it. He taught them to do all of it. He taught them, it took a little while to teach them how to weed eat, how to do things up to the way he wants, allowed to just skip whenever they want. School is high priority. I think I left. Okay, let me see if it's going to come back on. Oh, I am on. Okay. I didn't know I was on. Sorry. On my end, it still says it is preparing live stream. So it glitched out there for a minute. The internet must have gone out real quick. So just let me know if it goes off again because it still says it's preparing the live stream on my end. But yes, um, I've always had expectations with school is what I was talking about. They are required to get a certain amount done. It's very important. It's high priority. And then, are you guys able to hear me okay? Looks good on my end. Hmm. That's weird. I wonder why some people can hear things and then some people can't. Hmm. It looks like it's okay on my end. Everything's working. Okay. Sorry, guys. The internet at the church is usually really, really good. So I don't know. Might be your connection. Try refreshing it again. Um, the internet here is usually really, really good. So I don't know why it's going in and out. Sorry about that. Usually I never have issues here. Hi, Ashley. So yeah, with my little kids, I also let them make decisions. I learned a long time ago that to offer two choices to kids when it came to food, when it came to clothes, when it came to activities, I always offer them two choices. That's why it's because especially with toddlers, they want to feel like they're in charge. Right. So they want to feel like they're in charge. So I will say, do you want to wear this dress or do you want to wear this dress? Now, with my clothes with the babies, I just let them pick out whatever they wear. That's not even an issue. I don't even give them choices. Just go pick out what you're going to wear. And then if they come in something out totally outlandish, I'll be like, no, that's not going to work. You need to go. We have church tonight. You can't wear that. We have church. But when it comes to like food, I'll do two choices for food. Would you like cinnamon toast for breakfast, or would you like oatmeal? And then that way they feel like they are in charge a little bit because for toddlers, it's all about thinking that they have the control. And rather than me just thumping my chest and being like, I'm the boss here, you will do what I say and eat what I say to eat and wear what I say to wear. It's not wrong for them to feel like they have a little bit of choice in their life. Toddlers literally have zero control over anything. So, that's where a lot of the frustration comes from. So, when you give them a couple choices and they feel like they are, choosing what they want, that helps. That's just a little child psychology there. And no, I've never gone to school for it, but I've been a mom 8 times. It was so funny. My daughter took her test for her CDA, Childhood Development Associates, last Monday. And she was like, Mom, it was such an easy test. She said, I've been like studying this stuff for, I don't know, a few months or something. And she's like, you could have gone into that room, sat down and taken that test and passed it because it was literally just common sense stuff with kids. And she's like, it was so easy. So I'd be interested to go and just like take it just to see if I could pass it just from raising 8 kids. Hmm. Is everyone still getting blips here and there, or is everything good? Because she's getting little blips here and there too. I don't know what's going on. It looks like the internet's working, but. And then also when it comes to different things, um, like the decisions, I definitely have them, um, I don't know, Sarah, if they had a practice test online, I would take it and I'd love to see if I could pass it. But yeah, have them help you make it when it comes to different things like food. When it comes to, I like a lot of times I'll have my kids right there with me, kind of watching me as I do it. And they learn really quickly because it came to where when it comes to instant oatmeal, we have a microwave. I'll just confess my faults here in front of all of you. We do have a microwave, we do use it, and we'll make like microwave popcorn, microwave oatmeal, different things like that. And my girls know, even down to Kelly, she knows how to put the water ratio right between the water and the oatmeal. If she wants a quick snack, my kids love oatmeal. So she'll just pop that into the microwave real quick. But I'm trying to get Lana to where she knows how to make micro or oatmeal on the stove and how she can make simple meals like, and she does know how to make eggs. She's 10. So at 10, I definitely expect them to know how to make simple things, how to know how to preheat the oven, how to pop a pizza in, how to make oatmeal on top of the stove, how to make fried eggs and toast. And so I have like goals in my own mind of where I want my kids to be at what certain ages. All right. So, and that's my next one is have goals in mind for when they should be able to do certain things. Now, I know I've shared it on the show before. I should try to find it again, but it was like a checklist of everything that your kid should be able to do. It was back, I don't know when it was done, 1950s, 1960s maybe. And it was like a checklist to go through and like by age 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to adulthood. And my kids checked most of the boxes. The only things were like for boys, knowing how to do an oil change. Mine don't know how to do that. We just go get it done. Um, how to change a tire was one. I know my husband has shown my boys and maybe my girls that drive. I know he has shown them how to change a tire before. Would they remember it? I don't know. Would I remember it? I don't know. Could they do it? Maybe, but I'm sure my boys could at least. But for me, when it comes to my kids, I have had goals in mind for when they should be able to do certain things. Sarah, I'm going to try to find that and I'll post it in the Gently Led Sisters group if I find that list. It was a really neat, comprehensive list, and it was just kind of a good guideline to follow. For me personally, one of them is making the bed. Kelly and Hannah can now do that. Is it perfectly like military style with the no, but it's apparently made, for baby age. Washing dishes. Kelly can actually do a pretty good job washing a dish, but I'm kind of picky because we do have a couple Cutco knives. So this comes along with teaching them to be independent, but also protecting them. I will tell her, I'll take a quick look, and I've shown them the knives. I don't want you touching this knife ever. So if this knife is in the sink, I want you to tell mom to take it out. I'll take out the sharp things and then I'll let her go to town. Kids love water. So by the time they're 4, 5, and 6, they love standing at a sink. And if you are busy, if you're strapped for time and you're just trying to get the house clean and you need something to keep them occupied where they won't be destroying other parts of the house, we have this, and this is another invaluable thing to get. It took me years to get this, and I don't know why, but we have a stool that unfolds and it has 2 steps. And I need it for getting to the top of cabinets. But the babies like to go on it to wash dishes, to get anything on the counter. So they'll take it. They know how to open it, put it up next to the counter and get up there. So I will stick those 2 washing dishes and then I'll go get done what I need to get done. And it keeps them occupied, not too big of a mess, a little bit of water here and there. And sometimes they do a pretty good job. You just have to teach them the right ratio between the water and the soap because you don't want to go get a glass and it's just like full of soap, of dish soap, right? So they do a really good job though because kids love water. So by the time they're 5 or 6, 7, they should pretty much know how to wash a dish, how to dry a dish. Um, for my kids, brushing their own teeth, taking a bath, and doing their hair are big steps. Now, I know when Lana Lana's not really, she's 10 and she's not really to the age yet where she's doing fancy styles, but she does know how to brush her hair and put it in a ponytail. And there was kind of a goal for her to be able to know how to brush her hair and do something with it so it's just not hanging all in her face. That was a goal of hers because my husband said when he went on a preaching trip, he likes to rotate kids that he takes. And he told her, as soon as you learn to brush your hair and do something with it, you can come with me on a preaching trip because I don't know how to do hair. He does not know how to do hair. So that was like the goal. And it was a proud day when Lana finally was old enough to do that because then she was able to go on a trip with him. Kelly's not there yet. Kelly's 6 and she can brush her hair, but she's got really long hair. So as moms, it's up to us to teach our kids our girls especially, and I've had 6 in a row. So how to brush through all the tangles in their hair, how to brush through their hair, and then just do something simple with it, like putting it in a ponytail. As my girls have gotten older, they've gotten better and better with hair. Chloe and Allie are wonderful at doing hair now. And it's through watching YouTube videos on how to do hair, looking at books about hairstyles. There's so many things out there to really help in whatever area they need to learn. There's tons of YouTube videos and, everything. So yeah. And then, so usually by brushing their own teeth, taking a bath, doing their hair, I want them to be pretty good at doing that by 7 or 8 is what I go for. Hannah's really not there yet where she can run her own bath, wash her hair, but Kelly is, and Kelly's only 6. So I remember my best friend and I do things really differently when it comes to raising independent kids. And she was just like, I'm going to do it because I want the job to be done well. And I think she was literally washing her kids' hair until they were like 10 or something. And I'm like, psh, no one's got time for that. They're learning to wash their own hair. I don't care if it's not perfect. It's getting done. That's all that matters. So that's my philosophy when it comes to my kids doing stuff. Now, the next step as they're growing up would be making cookies. Making cookies, I tend to want my girls to do this by the time they are 11 or 12. And it basically comes down to reading comprehension and reading a recipe. Now, I was really, really proud of Lana because I had some cabbages that needed to be made into sauerkraut. Homemade sauerkraut is the best. If you've never had it, it's amazing. It's the only type of sauerkraut I will eat. And we had these cabbages that I think Miss Heidi had gotten for us or something. And they needed to be used, but I was going to be in Florida. It was in January. And I was going to be in Florida. So Lana was like, I can do it, Mom. And I was like, are you sure? You're going to have to shred up all the cabbage. You're going to have to put in the right amount of salt. You're going to have to, cover it with the cabbage leaf. You're going to have to make sure it's covered with enough liquid. She's like, I can do it. So she found a YouTube video and she made 2 jars of homemade sauerkraut. And at 10, I thought that was pretty good. So really encourage them to do it. Now, I could have been like, no, because I want this sauerkraut done perfectly. And you're just going to have to wait until I can do it with you. And then the cabbages would have gone bad because I would have been gone for a week and, whatever. But no, I'm always trying, if my kid is up for the challenge, I'm going to push them to do it. So I was really proud. And it's really good sauerkraut. We've broken into it now and I eat it with my eggs. It's so good. The next thing after making cookies, making basic recipes would be making a meal. And this is always a big step for my girls when they make a full meal. Make sure that you compliment them. Make sure you talk it up. Make sure your husband tells them how good it was. And because most of my girls, they're very close to their dad. And food is the way to their dad's stomach. And so it's really important to them that dad really likes it too. So, after they've shown that they can read a recipe, I let them plan a meal. And oftentimes I'll take them with me. They can shop for the items themselves. My husband likes to tell the story of when I had one of the kids. It would have been Lana, I believe. Would have been Lana. So Abigail would have been 10 at the time that I had Lana because Abby's 20 and Lana's 10. So she would have been 10 years old. So she'd be Lana's age now. Well, Abby went with me grocery shopping all the time at Aldi. And I always do Aldi. I always get the same things. We go through the car, through the aisles. I grab the same things. I barely ever deviate from what I get because we have kind of weekly meals that we rotate. And he said, he was like, I need to go get groceries. and I don't know what to get. And I was like, well, take Abby because she knows, she goes with me all the time. So he said he'll never forget. He was just pushing the cart and they were walking through Aldi and she was just putting everything in the cart that we needed for all the meals. And he said he was just kind of, like smiling like this. And all the people in the store noticed it and they thought it was so adorable. And he even had like people ask him, how old is she? And he's like, she's 10. And, so they were shocked that a 10-year-old knew everything to get. And she did great. She got everything we needed for that week. Part of that's just being the oldest daughter thing, but Lana would probably know too, because Lana is very observant. She could go, she could get out all the vegetables, all the fruits we get normally, all the breads, all the chips, all the cheeses, the eggs, the coffee, all of that. She knows what to get. So making the meal is the next big thing. For my boys, mowing the lawn. Now, I will say for my boys, I didn't focus so much on cooking as I did with my girls. I do believe that God created genders differently. If my boys would have expressed an interest in cooking, by all means, I would have shown them how, but they really never expressed the interest. So it wasn't really a big deal to me to have my boys. Now, I wanted them, Jason will throw pizza in, they'll make themselves a sandwich, but actually, they've kind of fallen on, hey, Abby, can you make this for me? Hey, Chloe, can you make this for me? And whatever. It is what it is. If they would have expressed interest, I would have had them do it, but they never did. So, and then getting a license is a big step in our house. I am all for my kids getting a license because it's going to affect every area of your life. I know a woman in her 80s who never got her license. And she's been completely dependent on the help of everyone else to get her where she needs to go. I am too much into control, maybe, as far as like, I want to be in control of myself. I want to be in control of my body. I want to be in control of what happens to me. That I would hate being dependent on someone else for that. I want to be able to get in the car and go if I need to get in the car and go. So when our kids turn 15, Allison is our next one, number 5. She'll be going this summer. When our kids turn 15, we put them into driver's ed and they get their license right when they turn 16. Yes, this is a lot more responsibility on us. Yes, this is a lot more stress on us. Yes, this is a lot more money on us because of insurance and all that. But I feel like it's very, very necessary. We also live in an area of the country that it's very easy to learn to drive. It's rural country. There's not a lot of traffic. Kind of a rite of passage for my kids is driving for the first time in Chicago. It can be pretty scary. And we live about 2 hours from Chicago. I'm finally comfortable now with Abigail dropping me off at the airport and then driving home. Chloe, it would still make me nervous because I've almost been like steamrolled off the road in Chicago, going to Chicago. I've almost been killed by semis. So it's very aggressive driving in Chicago, but around here, it's super easy to learn because it's rural country. So getting a license is a big step for my kids. It is one that there is no option. They will be getting their license. Even if they're scared, they're getting their license because I don't want them dependent on others for the rest of their life. And around here, it's necessary. We don't have a lot of public transportation because it is rural country. It's not like a city where you can hop on a bus. You have to have a car to get from place to place because it's spread out, and it takes me 20 minutes just to get to Walmart. So you have to have a car to get there. Running errands is a big deal in my house. I don't like to think of what it was like before I had drivers. I love that I have a couple drivers in the home now that they can run errands for me. Or if I see that they're in town, Life 360 is a wonderful thing. If they're in town, I can say, hey, can you pick this up for me? I need this at Walmart, whatever. Life 360 is one of those things that is super good to have. We only have the free version. We've only ever had the free version. And that is one of the ways of protecting my kids that I do. I like to see where they're at. I like to see the speeds they're driving. I like to know when they've gotten there, when they've left. So Life 360, I think, is like the best thing that any parents with driving kids can have. So get it today and install it on your phone and tell them I recommended you. Not really. We've only ever gotten the free version. We've never even paid for it. There's a lot more perks that you can unlock. by having the paid version. But one thing I like too is it also has in the free version crash detection. So if it ever detects a crash, you will be alerted. So that just brings peace of mind to me as a mom having driving kids. One of the things that I try to get my girls to do by the time they are 17 or 18 is making an entire Thanksgiving meal. I like them to plan out the menu. I like them to do all of the sides and everything that goes along with the Thanksgiving meal. Abigail's done it. Chloe's done it. Allison would be the next one. Now, one thing you're going to run into, especially if you have a lot of girls in a row, like me, is sometimes you get slack, you slack off, you get soft. You don't expect as much of the younger ones because the older ones are doing so much. But with Chloe every summer going to camp and learning new skills there at camp, it's really neat to see Allison start stepping up because then she does a lot more of the cooking and she does a lot more of the meal planning. And, we all help out. We all do our unique thing. I'm kind of the one overseeing, running, this needs to be done, this needs to be done, this needs to be done. And I like to delegate. You can do this, you can do this, you can do this. If I was to do every little aspect of the home, I would be completely overwhelmed. I couldn't be doing everything I do and then do everything in the home on top of it like I had to when I had little kids. When I had little kids, I had zero outside activities. I mainly focused on running the home, keeping the kids alive. If you put in the work, though, like pushing them towards being independent from the time they're little, when you get older kids like I have, you're able to do a lot more and you're able to delegate a lot more things to your children. All right. Now, I didn't have kids to do these chores and to bake and to cook and to plan the meals. That's not why I had kids. But I want my kids to be able to run a home well, boy or girl, by the time they leave. And so far, so good. So, another thing for my older girls is arranging bridal showers, planning the food, planning the decorations, doing the food. I think that's really good for anyone to have those skills because someday you might need to plan one for your family member, your own daughter, something. And honestly, my girls have better eye. They have a better eye when it comes to this type of thing than I do. I'm not very good at it. I'm not very artsy. I can get it done if I need to, but my girls have gifts when it comes to that area more so than I do. And then another big step in our house is when we were able to leave overnight, like my husband and I were able to go away overnight. The first time was tough. Tommy was 16 years old. We waited until he had his license. And then we went away. It was 45 minutes away. And of course, I'm up at 1 o'clock in the morning thinking, what if someone breaks in? What are they going to do? And so I'm up with all these fears, but it got easier over time. And now I can leave for 3 or 4 days. I'm not worried at all about my kids when I leave because they are so good at running the home and they're so smart on their feet and they know what to do if something comes up. And we're to the point where they're pretty independent and I can leave and it doesn't all fall to pieces or it's not chaos or, it's still very efficiently run as well as if I'm there in the home. And that's what I want to get my kids to. Um, everyone wants to be needed and wants to be loved, right? I want my kids to love me. I want my kids to need me, but I want them to be able to survive if something happened to me. I was talking to the ladies in Florida about this and I'm like, what happens if there's an apocalypse and I'm not around? What in the world? What happens if there's an apocalypse and I'm not around to sorry, something's falling down here. I'm not around to save them from zombies. What if there's an apocalypse and I'm not there? They need to know how to critically think. They need to know what to do in case of an emergency. They need to know where to go, what to do, and that's just my philosophy. I want my kids to need me, of course, but mainly for the emotional part of it, right? I'm their mom. I'm there in their corner. I'm there to root them on. I'm there to encourage them. But I don't want them to need me in the sense that they don't know how to live life. And I was raised that way. My mom was always pushing me out of my little comfort zone. She raised me to be very strong, very independent when it came to making good decisions, not being helpless, knowing how to function. My mom did a really good job because my mom is that way. And so I want my kids to be that way as well because it's worked really well for me. in all areas of life, it has worked really well for me. So overnight watching the babies is a big step. And then next, planning a week's worth of meals. I have had my kids do this. I have had them, as they're older girls, it's fun for them. You know, none of this stuff, this is not even stuff that they're doing where they're, oh, I hate this. You know, they have actually all really enjoyed it. So, and I did too when I was growing up. I really enjoyed it. And it's not like they're always cooking or they're always cleaning. They have outside interests too. Um, they go to meetings, they go to youth conferences, they go to camps, they go to, you know, my girls next week are going to be going for a week to their friend's house. So my best friends, so they do fun things as well. And I do everything when they're gone. So it's not like they're, you know, being chained to the stove or, you know, and those who know me know that I am all about education, being smart, you know, all those things. I'm not just like, you don't have to do math because you're going to learn fractions by cooking. No, that is not my personality at all. Um, but I'm for a being well-rounded in all areas. So education and knowing how to run a home, knowing how to live life, because not only is it things like that, but traveling somewhere by themselves. I had Chloe do this just this past year for a wedding. She was at the time, she would have been, was she 17? I think she had just turned 17. So she was 17, but she had never flown on a plane by herself. She had never done any of this. So I booked her ticket. I dropped her off at the airport. Remember, she has Life 360 on her phone, just another little protection. She has Life 360 on her phone, and just our kids having smartphones offers a level of protection in that area. Because we always know their location. She has Life 360. I can see exactly where she's at. If there's any snags, she can get a hold of me instantly, you know. So that offers a little bit of peace to me too, as a mom. I think I probably would have been allowed to do more as a teenager as far as like going places and doing things if we would have had smartphones and my mom could have seen where I was all the time and, you know, whatever. So, but I dropped her off at the airport and she learned how to go through TSA by herself. She learned how to navigate the airport. She learned how to go out to depart to the arrivals so she could be picked up by her friend, Krista. So she did all of this on her own, and I was so proud of her. And I know it was daunting. It was daunting for me when I had to learn, when I parked for the first time, had to take the shuttle over to the O'Hare airport, figure out all that. O'Hare is huge. So you can go a million wrong places. But I've been very big in pushing my kids to do things outside their comfort zone because life is all about stepping outside your comfort zone and doing things that you're not comfortable with and figuring out how to have fun while you're doing the things you're not comfortable with. So I've always pushed them to do that. So what are some ways, that being said, all the things I push them to do, what are some ways that we protect our kids? Well, number one, as they're growing up, we warn them of the dangers of the internet. Even Lana, I was just having a talk with her the other day. She was bugging me to get Pinterest at 10. And I was like, absolutely not. You're not getting Pinterest because Pinterest has the capability of people being able to message you on there. And she's like, Mom, I know not to ever message. I know not to ever respond if someone starts messaging me. And I said, well, that's not even the only thing. They could be sending you explicit pictures of bad things and you could open it not knowing, and then you see things that I don't want you to see. I said, so absolutely not. You're not getting Pinterest at age 10. That's ridiculous. And I shut that down really quickly. But I'm constantly, from the time they were little, I was constantly warning my boys of the dangers of pornography and about not looking at things that are going to affect your mind and your body for the rest of your life, potentially affect your marriage, future relationships. So I've constantly warned them of the dangers of the internet. They only get a phone when they turn 16. That's our hard rule. They get the license, they have a phone because then they get Life 360 on it. I can see exactly what's going on. For us, a hard rule in our house now is no dating until they are over 18. We just feel like their brains are developing way too much as a teenager to be able to handle the emotional and hormonal things that come with dating someone. So for us, a hard rule is nothing before 18. enjoy being a teenager, enjoy going to your camps, enjoy making friends. We have no issue with them talking to people of the opposite sex. But as far as one-on-one talking, texting, calling, one-on-one conversation that's private like that, not until after they're 18 and not until the boy has talked to. I'm speaking in broad terms of girls right now because I've got Abby's in a relationship, but Chloe and Down are not. So I have 5 left, 5 girls coming up. So I'm going to be talking from here on out, probably from a mindset of having girls. So for us, it was he talks to your dad, he gets permission to talk to you one-on-one, and then he talks to your dad before he asks you to be his girlfriend. He talks to your dad before he says, I love you. He talks to your dad before he proposes. Those are kind of the steps that we take. And vice versa. Jason and Tommy have both done that with Tommy with his wife, Jason with his fiance. So they've both followed that pattern with them. Yes, you can. You can get way too overwhelmed. And here's the thing I've noticed, Diana. I've noticed with girls more than boys. Boys are able, as teenagers, they're able to have their guy friends and have their sports and have their outside activities. Girls, on the other hand, entering into relationships at 14, some I'm seeing as early as 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Entering into relationships takes over their entire life. That's all they think about. That's all they daydream about. They can't do anything. They sit around the house. Maybe they're reading romance books and they're, thinking of that. Maybe they're just, it's too much for them. And they're not able to enjoy being a teenage girl because the thoughts of this boy, everything, they just take over their entire life. They dress for that boy. They try to please that boy. And then if that boy is a good boy, it's okay. But if he's not, he could take advantage of that. And especially if the dad's not involved very much in her life. So you really got to watch out for that. For us, it's a hard rule. No dating until they're over 18. We don't do sleepovers. One way that we've protected our kids is no sleepovers with someone who isn't like family. For us, there are a few people who we do trust. And one of them is my best friend. She is like my sister. And, I know there's nothing that I have to fear. She's married to a really good guy. He's a pastor as well. And they also have a lot of girls. They have a lot of girls and they've taught their girls well, taught their kids well. Their sons are very protective of their daughters, and everything. So she's like my family. Her kids call me Aunt Cassie. So she is like family. That's one, that we trust. Some family members I would trust, my mom, my in-laws, some aunts, some siblings. But there are other, you just have to choose when it comes to that. You have to really follow your gut when it comes to that. Yes, exactly, Diana. I agree. She said online guys never were caring about boundaries and they straight up wanted everything from you. Yes. And it's really bad too because blackmail exists. And there are sometimes people that will blackmail you with pictures that they got you to send them under peer pressure and stuff. So there's so much danger. I've watched a lot of documentaries about it, a lot of shows, and I've really tried to warn my kids when it comes to this because there's a lot of online bullies. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. And yeah, so no sleepovers with someone who isn't like family. So, it's only pretty much family members or those who are like family. One thing we've decided for our girls is no food industry jobs for our girls. Food industry would be like waitressing, McDonald's, Pizza Ranch, because of experiences with our boys that they had there as far as just the culture. It's very raunchy, lots of profanity, lots of stuff I just don't want my girls subjected to. So we're going to protect our girls when it comes to the things that they're subjected to, even when it comes to vile language. We have a hard rule against profanity of any kind in our home. It just doesn't exist. There's no foul language. There's no cussing. There's no cursing. There's no calling names. There's no calling, does not go on in our home. And I don't want my girls around that in the world. So No food industry jobs. Most of the time they don't pay very well anyways, and you're just subjected to a lot. So for us, that would be, um, we don't have a hard rule against our girls after they turn 18 getting a job. Chloe might potentially be getting a job after she comes home from working at camp this summer, but we're very picky about the type of job. So it's going to have to line up with certain guidelines we have, things we don't want our girls subjected to. So retail, possibly depending on the store, Hobby Lobby, Joann's, which are going out of business, so no more Joann's. But a store like that, we might be okay with. I would not be okay with, like I said, waitressing, food industry. Daycare is always a good one for girls, especially because most daycares are also run by women and most daycares employ women. So that's another thing. Now, I am not the type that is against girls having a job ever, because I do believe it's not about you making your home into a prison and never allowing them to do things. It's about teaching them the dangers that are out there and preparing them for that and having their hearts. Because if you have their hearts, they're not just going to go for the first boy that comes along and gives them a compliment, right? They're going to be picky. They're going to wait to have your blessing on whatever relationship that they enter into or whatever. So, um, no social media until a certain age. Usually that's about, I think when they're about 14 or 15, we allow them Pinterest, but only people that they know can be their friends. And we warn them about private messages and all that. When they're about 16, I think we allow Instagram. And when they're 18, we allow Facebook. So that's kind of the rules that we have for that. That being said, my kids really aren't big social media people. So sometimes Abby did make an account, but then she goes off of it all the time. So she'll activate it, deactivate, activate, deactivate. So I never know if she's on there or not. Um, but then also warn them of the dangers of being alone with anyone. And when I say anyone, I mean anyone. I mean adults. I mean pastors, youth pastors. It doesn't just stop because they're a pastor, a youth pastor. It doesn't automatically make them trustworthy. I really like the camp that my daughter works at. They're very, very good about safeguarding against any potential. They've never had a scandal, and they're very, very, very careful about safeguarding. They don't want any scandals. So they have, even with the counselors, I like the way they do the camps too. So they have staff, like Chloe was on staff, but they don't have counselors that are with each group. What they do is each group brings their own counselors. So when we take our group, I go or Abby goes, or my husband goes or brother Ron will go, they'll go with their group of kids. They are with that group of kids the whole time, pretty much the whole time. They are dealing with them when there's decisions that are made. They're the ones to talk to their kids. They're the ones in the bunkhouse with their kids, getting their kids ready for bed, everything. So, and they also have a rule, never a camper alone with a counselor. If you have to leave the service to take them to the bathroom, it has to be 3 of you that go. 2 campers and a counselor, 2 counselors and camp, whatever. It has to be 3 though. And I really, really like that because strength lies in numbers, and you will never have the opportunity for a false accusation, even if there's more than, 2 that are going. So that is a good rule to have. And I've tried to teach my kids that there always needs to be 3 people. Don't ever be alone with someone, and those are safeguards that my husband and I have also put into our marriage. He won't pick up a woman and drive her somewhere by himself. It's him and one of the kids. It's him and me. He doesn't do counseling with women by himself. I guess it's like the Billy Graham rule that was under scrutiny, but I completely agree with it. I completely agree, to avoid even the appearance of evil. So, and just having those safeguards will keep you from ever getting into that sin, you know? And then have open communication with your kids. That is a way of protecting them. When they know that they can come to you with any problem, when they know that they can come to you with anything that pops up, just have that open line of communication. And as they get older, it's going to be bigger problems. And you've got to learn to not just freak out or fly off the handle when they come to you with an issue. You have to learn to calmly discuss things. And that goes a long way when you do that. And then teach them to trust their gut. If something feels off, it probably is. There have been times in my life where I've looked back and my gut was screaming at me, you need to get out of this situation right now, or and I did. I listened to my gut. And looking back, I'm thinking it was a good thing that I did because I don't know if that other person had evil intentions or, whatever, but it was good of me to listen to my gut because oftentimes women don't and they end up being taken advantage of. So I've taught my girls, listen to your gut. If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't right. So definitely listen to it. So how do we push our older kids? Okay, so we kind of went over how you push your younger kids, some things that you can do, but I've got older kids, I've got adult kids. So, one of the things that my husband has done with our boys is he would tell them not to hover. Okay, so hovering is where a guy has an interest in a girl, but he never makes a move. So let's say he visits her church, she's from a different church, and he just hovers. He just kind of stands around and like magically they're just supposed to like end up together. He taught my boys, if you want a relationship, you got to go for it. So he always pushed them to be the one to make the move, whatever. Our girls, obviously he hasn't done that. They kind of got to wait for the guy to make the move. So but with our boys, he did. So he would tell them, you can go, like they've had to miss a couple church activities before because they had an interest in a girl. And so he would tell them, he's like, you can go, but you're not going to be like a white boy and hover. You need to make a move. And so they were always like, okay, we will make a move. And both of them did. And they both gotten great girls because of that. So you have to talk to a girl to see if there's even any compatibility, if there's interest, but you can't just stand around waiting for it to happen. So that's one way we pushed our older boys. Um, Teach your kids how to travel. For me, this is important because I love traveling. So it's a good skill to have to know how to find good deals, book flights, navigate the airport. And I think I've created a monster because Tommy loves to travel now. All of my kids love to travel, actually. But Tommy loves it. And he's always like looking at flights, looking at the way to find the best flight and where to go. But it's a good skill to have. Teach them how to have a budget and teach them the dangers of going into debt. All right. It's not a bad thing to have a credit card. I'm just going to throw that out there. I don't totally go along with this whole like it's always evil to have a credit card because there are some good perks. You can rack up miles, you can rack up rewards. So what we've done is we've tried to teach them, yes, you have the credit card, but pay it off after each cycle. And so that way you're not just racking up a ton of debt. You're not just going into debt. So, but they also need to know before they get married, my husband really tries to sit them down and tell them or teach them how to do a budget because we were not taught that actually. And we paid for it. We paid for it dearly. So once our kids get old enough, my husband usually sits them down, shows them how to do a budget, shows them, just because you have $1,000 this week, look ahead to the next week, you've got all these bills coming out. So you got to be ready for that. You can't just spend money just because it's there today, because next week you might have bills. So have a safe space for dating and getting to know someone of the opposite gender. We do what's called prison dating. Uh, We don't do unchaperoned dating. So for our kids, they always have a chaperone. That could be a sibling though. We're not super picky about who the chaperone is. Now, I'm not going to like count Kelly as one of the chaperones, but Lana's 10. She knows what's going on. In fact, some of the times the younger ones are a little bit pickier, like you're getting too close and they watch them like with a hawk's eye. Um, they're a little bit pickier than the older ones, but we do what we call prison dating. We do not monitor their private messages or their private phone calls, though. That's on them. By then, they should know you don't send explicit things to each other. You don't talk about explicit things. That's for after marriage. We explain that all to them. Um, and then it just gets to a point when they're 19, 20 years old, they're adults. You got to just let them be an adult at that point. Yes, they're still under a roof, so they're still going to go by our rules when it comes to dating, just so that they will have the best wedding day of their life. They'll get to the marriage altar pure, they'll have the best honeymoon, all that good stuff. So we do put things into place to protect them in that regard. But we also allow them to get to know each other on a one-on-one basis. We don't sit on the phone with them, while they're on the phone. And notice I still do that. My kids go like this. When you say make a phone call, they go like this. I still do that. We don't sit on the phone with them. We don't read their text messages. They get to a point, 18 and older, you should have, explained all that, done a good job raising your kids where you're not going to have to monitor everything that they do at that point. So, push them to start calling the doctor and going by themselves if there's an issue. So how did I teach them all these things in time, or you made a list and explained it to them? Nope, just day-to-day life. When the situation popped up, it's something that we have just reiterated over and over and over. My kids call it life lessons with mom or life lessons with dad. I'm always talking to my kids, always at home, in the car, talk. I'm always talking to them. And people that know us know that my husband and I are both gabbers. We like to gab. Or as the Gen Z term is yappers. My husband and I are yappers. And so, yes, I communicate all the time with my kids. Talk all the time. It was funny because Chloe said that someone asked her, "You don't watch your mom's show?" And she was like, "No, because I live with my mom." And I was like, that was a good answer, because that would be silly, because on this show, I have tried very, very, very hard to not discuss subjects. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I only discuss subjects that I've actually done, or I've I have a little bit of knowledge when it comes to subjects. And that's why if I don't have an area of expertise, I have someone else on to talk about it. And then I'll be the one asking questions. So how do you do this? How do you do that? Whatever. But I try to only do topics that I have expertise in. So Chloe was like, that would be so silly because I live with you. And like, I literally hear you saying this stuff all the time. And I do. I practice what I preach. I'm not just getting up here telling you things I'm not doing in my own home. So this is literally all stuff that's worked for me. And anyone that knows me from my church knows that I'm telling you the truth. They see me in action. They see our family in action. They see all of this stuff that I'm talking about. We do. I'm not just like living a whole separate life at home and then coming and telling you something differently. So this is all stuff that we've taught them to do, teach them to do their taxes. My husband just walked Abby through her taxes this year and had her do them. We have no problems when it comes to things with our older kids that out of groups that we trust. Okay. So we have a lot of churches we associate with in Illinois, and a lot of good people in those churches. We know of many churches that have never even been one scandal. No, not one cover up. They're truly living at home what they're preaching from the pulpit. And like I said, they have guidelines and they have principles in place at their camps, and we see it. We see it being played out. And so when it comes to things like that, when our kids are old enough, 14, 15, 16, to be able to talk to us if there's a problem, if something weird happens, we're fine with sending them to these camps, these conferences, being around other good Christian people. So we have no problems with things like that. And then teach your kids it's okay to be the only one standing against something, and teach them to be loyal to God alone over man. And I think back to COVID. During this time, they were pushing the masks, and I did not agree with the masks. I did not think they helped. I thought it was silly. It was just a silly flu. And I did not think that anyone had the right to force me to put something over my nose and my mouth when I was not. It was unconstitutional, first of all. It was my body. Why is it my body, my choice when it comes to abortion? But suddenly now they're able to force us to, number one, take the jab, or number two, put something over our nose and our mouth to restrict breathing. So I thought it was a very good lesson for my children. I often would walk into Walmart. They would offer me masks. I would say, no, thank you, very pleasantly. I was never nasty about it. But I'd say, no, thank you. And I continue walking. My kids looking around, we were the only ones without masks, the only ones. That can be a little daunting because you do get looked at and you do get comments. Sometimes you get hate comments. I had people on the internet telling me that they hope my kids died from COVID. I had people telling me they hope my grandma died. I don't know what my grandma had to do with this. with my choice not to wear a mask, but okay, whatever. Um, I had people telling me they hoped I died because I chose not to wear a mask. And peer pressure is a thing, but I was glad I showed my kids that it's not scary to be the only one not doing something. And I thought it was ridiculous and stupid, so I wasn't going to go along with it. Um, and I often think of the time where Allie even mentioned that. She said, Mom, she said, I kind of like it that we're the only ones without a mask. And I thought that was good. That was good for her to learn that sometimes we're going to be the oddball and we're standing on what we believe in principle, and that's not always a bad thing. So, but the most important thing is teaching them to be loyal to God alone over man. Like I said, we are truly independent fundamental Baptists. We live our life on conviction and principle, not what a certain group we associate with does. And my kids know that about their dad and I. I mean, 100% they know that. They know that their dad and their mom are loyal to God over any man, over any camp, over any denomination. They know that we're going to follow God at the end of the day. So, being independent as a woman. Oh, no, lastly, how do I show my kids, my daughters, how to be independent as a woman, but still appreciating the differences between men and women? Because I do like, okay, I don't know how to put this. Let's just say this. My husband likes the fact that he's married to someone that he doesn't have to micromanage. He's glad he's married to someone who can make decisions, who can figure out problems, I know what to do in a case of emergency. I know how to get things done, whether that comes to something's broken. I know how to get it fixed. Not me necessarily getting it fixed, but I know who to call to get it fixed. Um, he needed someone like me being in the line of work that he's in, being someone who gets a lot of scrutiny, a lot of public scrutiny, a lot of hate. He needed someone who could take that, who had thick skin, who didn't mind standing alone against the bullies of the world. And, I truly feel like we are 110% compatible for each other. And God knew what we needed in each other when he brought us together. But that being said, I do know my limits. Okay, so sometimes I need help and I will tell him, listen, babe, I can't do this. Like, this is above my pay grade. I need your help when it comes to this. That could be anything like fixing a gutter, something around the house that broke that I can't do, changing a tire, even, whatever it is, I just know when to ask for help. But definitely try to push yourself out of your comfort zone as well. If something is affecting your life, whether that's you don't know how to drive, you don't have a driver's license, um, maybe your husband wants to keep you in a state of dependency. There are some men that are like this. They want their wives to need them so badly. They don't want them to be independent at all. They don't want them to know what's going on with the finances. They don't want them to have a driver's license. They don't want them to know how to grocery shop. The men literally do everything. They control the finances. They drive the car. They go grocery shopping, whatever it is, the men do everything. And they want their women in a state of dependence on them. That is not my marriage. If that's your marriage, you deal with your marriage and you have to learn how to live with that. Thankfully, that is not my marriage because I don't think I could take it. My husband likes me being independent, but there are some things that I've had to push myself out of my comfort zone. Being married to my husband, things like booking hotel rooms for all of us on a missions trip, things like finding his good flights for him, finding good flights for me, planning when we first were married, especially when we first started the church, planning Christmas dinners. And that was not my forte. I had to push myself out of my comfort zone. All the things that went on around the church, whether it's just supplies or whatever, not usually my forte thing, but I had to do it because I was married to who I was married to. So maybe for you, that's going to look differently. Maybe your husband wants your help when it comes to his business. Maybe he's self-employed and he needs your help bookkeeping, or he needs your help on the job site. Whatever it is, as wives, we are to be our husband's helpmeet. So we need to adapt ourselves to help in whatever area he needs us to help in. So, for me, I am independent in the fact that I love traveling, but I also love coming home. And that's one thing where my family is my everything. And at the end of the day, my husband and I, we do our own thing. I'm not needy or clingy during the day while my husband's working, and he's not needy or clinging with me. But we love at the end of the day just coming back, reconnecting, having our few hours at night together. And, it's remember that when it comes to this, it's not about just you don't need to monopolize all of his time, okay? Because he's going to need to provide a living. He's going to need to be independent and not have you calling him all hours of the day and, sucking up all whatever time he has. It's about making an entire life, your life as a whole with him. You have an entire life to do trips with him and make memories with him. And, it's about life as a whole. He has to be free to make a living without you causing him stress. And I've seen a lot of young brides, especially, do this. They get married and suddenly they have all this time on their hands and they're like texting their husband constantly and getting mad when he won't respond. But he's like, babe, I have to work, So, um, brides really need to learn how to work well with the time that they have before kids. And that's why I would suggest having an interest, or like my daughter-in-law, she is a phlebotomist, but she is now almost 12 weeks pregnant with their first. So soon she'll be quitting. And then she'll devote all of her time to the baby and everything like that. But in the last year and a half, it would have been really tough if she didn't have that phlebotomist job. And she just, they have a smaller house. So by 10, she's done cleaning the house. There's not really much to do. So she was able to be busy doing this and not have, a lot of spare time on her hands. So, but they also knew eventually God would give them kids. And so they didn't want to get dependent on her income. So when you first get married, keep that in mind too. Don't get dependent on the wife's income if she's just doing it as like a side thing before kids, because then you're going to be so used to her income. It's going to be really hard if you've bought a house based off that income. Your living style is based off that income. So that's something to watch for as well. Men do want to be needed, just like we're needed. And my husband knows that there's some things I can't do without him, and I do need him desperately in my life. And so while he likes it that I am independent and I can make decisions on my own, he also likes it that I need him too. And he likes it that I miss him when I'm gone. And sometimes absence makes the heart grow fonder. And, things are even better when you get home. So men do want to be needed just like we want to be needed. And then rise to the challenge of what he's interested in. Is there anything he wants you to be interested in? For us, my husband and I like working out. He likes it that I have an interest in that. Kayaking, water activities, going to the beach, swimming, stuff like that. What if your husband wants to do archery and he really wants you to do it with him? You have zero interest in archery. But I submit to you, if it's something that he really wants you to get into it. You might find that you really, really like it. I used to hate working out, hate it. And then over the past couple of years, I've seen just the good it's done for me mentally, physically, and now I love it. So I love taking the time to work out, and he loves it when I go to work out with him. So that is something that's benefiting both of us. And yet we're doing it together, building our bonds, Um, so yeah, I would say ask him what he has an interest in doing with you and then find something to do together, form interests together. And you'll find that it really helps at building that relationship. You can be strong while also being soft and feminine because strength comes from inside. You don't have to be loud and boisterous to be strong. You just have to have a strength to stand against the things that you know to be wrong. I'm actually reading a book right now. I have a lot of books on my Kindle I'm reading, but this one's on my Kindle and it's called, let me find it, Habits, like 7 habits to like, I don't know, strength, being a strong woman or something. My mom recommended it for me. And The Right Kind of Strong is what it's called. So it's called The Right Kind of Strong. Surprisingly, trying to find it. Surprisingly Simple Habits. Get the title. My goodness. Surprisingly Simple Habits of a spiritually strong woman is what it is. And I'm actually on the article right now, or the chapter right now where she's talking about weak laden women not being one of those weak laden women, that go from house to house and all this stuff. So it's pretty good. I don't really struggle with the whole pushing, come on, you need to take a stand. I don't have a problem taking a stand. I don't have a problem being confrontational, but I wanted to read this just to see what she said about strength. And she's had a lot of good things to say about strength and what true strength is. True strength isn't always standing against bullies. Sometimes true strength is learning when to be quiet, when you need to be quiet. True strength does come from within, and we can be soft and feminine while still standing for right and standing for truth and all of that. And we can stay classy while we're doing it. We don't need to be like the world. We don't need to use the world's language. We don't need to use profanity. We don't need to call names. We can still be classy and dignified while having that quiet strength that comes from within. So anyways, these are just some ways that I have found the balance in my own life and with my children with protecting them, but also creating independence, because I am all for creating children that can withstand pressure, first of all, because can we just talk a little bit and in closing about how much pressure our kids face in today's world? Guys, it's not impossible to raise good kids. Don't let anyone come to you with this hopeless ideology of, well, it's a toss of a coin. Sometimes it turn out and sometimes they don't. You can be the most perfect parent and you will still produce a bad kid. Don't fall for that. It's a very hopeless philosophy. Very, very hopeless philosophy. And yes, good parents do produce bad children sometimes, but most children, when they're raised by good parents, have a desire to please those parents. And if there's zero desire to please the parents, there's something very broken in the home. So as long as you love God and as long as you love your husband and as long as you love your children, they're going to have a desire to please you. They're not going to want to do things to break your heart and shove it in your face and, live like the world, act like the world. I see some Christian kids leave their home at 18 and they literally just fall. They give their sinful lusts everything it desires. They just embrace everything. They embrace drinking and tattoos and drugs and fornication and a lascivious lifestyle. Every sin of the flesh they embrace. And we don't have to raise kids like that. We can raise strong biblical kids that know it's okay to say no to sin. It's okay to be the only one standing against a world gone crazy. It's good and acceptable to marry pure and to only be with one person for the rest of your life. It's good and acceptable to never drink liquor. It's good and acceptable to never do drugs. It's good and acceptable to never smoke. And we can raise children like that, that know that it is good to be that way. So it all comes down to just open communication with your kids, though, living what you're talking about, living what you're preaching. Don't be a hypocrite in the home. Don't say one thing and then live an entirely different way behind closed doors. And then just, fostering this independence while still shielding them and protecting them from things that can destroy their life, such as predators online, things happening at sleepovers, them being subjected to things at sleepovers. So, it is about being aware of the dangers out there, preparing our kids for the dangers, letting them know of the dangers, keeping open communication, loving God, loving them, loving your husband. So I hope that is a help. Sorry about the little snags we had today. I don't know what that was all about, but the internet was kind of going crazy here. So next week, I might need to do it either late at night, in the morning, or maybe Tuesday evening, because next Monday is a very, very full day for me. So I'm going to be taking my guest back to the airport. I have a guest flying in Wednesday. She's thinking about moving to this area because rural country here, it's very, very cheap to live here. So she's thinking about moving here, looking at houses and things. And then I'm taking her back Monday. Then I have to drive 2.5 hours one way to drop Chloe and Allie off at my best friend's house, or we're meeting halfway And then I have to drive 2.5 hours back. So I'm going to have like 10 hours in the car. So I don't know if next week is going to work. I might just have to do it on Tuesday evening. So it'll be next week sometime. I just don't know when. Have a great week, ladies. Go love your husband. Go love your children. Go love the Lord and be the best mom you can be. You're all doing a great job and you've got this. So I'll see you next week sometime.